Today I visit another couple studio. This couple is very interesting couple because they both work in Beijing, London and US as well. And when they come back to Hong Kong, they very brave to set up their office immediately.
When we were first started, like right after school, we actually went to Beijing, not knowing each other at that point. We were both attracted by the sort of excitement post-Olympic era in Beijing that was full of optimism. However, during that point, we were doing a lot of really large projects, and then they were all about kind of showcasing the sort of new identity of China, and everything has to be rather exuberant and quite sort of wow effect in terms of its form or its ambition. And did our masters in the US, and we were sort of reflecting at that point whether or not architecture should really mostly about exaggerated impression about form and impression. So we both worked in London and in New York. So about almost 10 years, we sort of decided to go off on our own, and we wanted to take that idea of maybe making architecture doesn't need to be all about exuberance and really serve the user, but then also bring in details or cultural background, history into the project itself.
During that process, we also decided to do a research project called Middleman Hong Kong. It's a video series about different architectural and urban elements in Hong Kong. Because both Paul and I had been studying and working abroad for so many years, when we moved back to Hong Kong, it had this very familiar but strange outlook. So it was a city that we had known since childhood, but at the same time, having been abroad for so many years, it had we were kind of looking at it through fresh eyes. And so we found that really helpful as a way to re-engage the city in a slightly different way and look at different architectural and urban elements that can be found throughout the city. Elements like how the city negotiates the hilly terrain with different kinds of shortcuts, the prominence of escalators and how they're related to buildings, even the presence of palm trees in the city. So lots of these different characteristics of the city. And I think through that, re-looking at the city, a lot of those elements and the kind of relationship to the city has been embedded in a lot of the office's projects. One of the biggest inspirations for the project was really the site context. So it's located kind of in a transition point between the nursery park in West Kowloon and then the harbor. And so we were quite interested in how to accentuate or enhance the site as a transition between these two scales. In terms of the geometry, we wanted to keep it relatively simple. One of the prompts of the competition was also that it could, in terms of the construction method, be easily assembled and disassembled. So we were also interested in using timber as a structure that could be with very kind of simple connections, and also to bring the element of nature into the park surrounding. As you can see, the overall geometry of the pavilion is relatively simple, but we also wanted to embed different characteristics that we had absorbed through our Middleman Hong Kong video series into the design of the pavilion. The pavilion, it's kind of composed of a timber structure. There's 21 columns on each side, and it utilizes a portal frame for the structure. And some of the key characteristics we wanted to embed in the pavilion include the tunnel, which is the kind of main entranceway from the nursery park into the waterfront. And it really accentuates the scale difference between the two sides. So one from a very intimate scale to a grand scale of the harbor. Another aspect is the stepped seating. So one of the main programs of the pavilion is really for visitors to the park to enjoy the sunset, but also to host various performances and gatherings in the area. So the step seating really allows people to view the sunset and the harbor from a kind of elevated point of view, and also to have a more closer relationship to where the roof slopes down so that they can actually interact and touch the structure. Some of the other characteristics of the city that we wanted to embed also include the scaffolding. So you see a lot of scaffolding in Hong Kong, and so we wanted to use that kind of texture to create a screen at the underside of the steps. So it kind of screens off the harbor view from the entrance point. Also, the sloped roof, we used transparent polycarbonate panels that are similar in form to traditional Chinese roofs, but there's a translation in terms of the scale and also the material. Usually traditional roof tiles are made of clay and much smaller. In this case, it's much larger, and the translucency of it allows natural light to penetrate into the pavilion area below. And we also have the palm tree, which is kind of a wayfinder for the pavilion. It comes out of the roof and is also situated in a small platform so that people can overlook the nearby park from the pavilion. And last but not least, we wanted to also introduce the aspect of weather. So in Hong Kong, in the summer months, we receive a lot of rain, and so we wanted to transform the weather into a kind of performative element. So when it rains, we have a pool at the base of the pavilion, and then the water cascades down the sloped roof and is collected by the pool underneath. Limpan Courtyard, it's quite a unique village structure. It's composed of a courtyard style, but rather than being a completely closed courtyard form like traditional Chinese courtyards, the form of the village house is more like a C shape, so it's a semi-open courtyard configuration. And what we wanted to do was really to revitalize the existing village houses, see how they can be reused, and also bring in a new program into the project. As you can see, our proposal consists of a long bar-shaped hotel and some villas that are close to the existing Limpan courtyards. The main strategy behind the proposal is really to connect what were previously isolated village houses and combine them into a larger complex so that the courtyards could be better utilized, the smaller ones, and also in the formation of the new building to create a much larger complex for the hotel use and to tie the existing old structures plus the new structures together. In terms of the circulation, there's a small footpath that goes across an existing pond to the main entrance of the hotel. The main entrance, is you can see, is a bar structure that is cantilevered over an existing village house, and you can really see the juxtaposition between the old structure and the new building proposal. And we wanted to also echo the kind of sloped roof structure in the new building as well. In terms of programs, the new entrance is really used as the lobby and also a kind of outdoor cafe for visitors to stop by, and then the rest of the guest houses or the rooms are located down this long bar, L-shaped bar you can see. And we also have included some larger villas closer to the other two existing village houses, as well as the new kind of multi-function pavilion in the center. Very thankfully, our proposal was the winning entry for the competition, and we hope to be able to proceed to kind of detailed design and construction in the near. It started as a bare shell apartment, and one of the premise of the project is really about living in a garden. The client was very keen on bringing landscape elements and garden elements into the interior of the project, and at the same time being able to incorporate the element of surprise in the house. As you can see, in terms of the layout, it's quite open, and inside we have an interior garden that bleeds into the balcony outside. Now, one of the key features of the house is the entrance. As you can see, we have a curved concrete core that's directly adjacent to the main entrance door. And part of the rationale behind that is to create a sense of surprise for visitors coming in, and also to kind of play with the relationship between what's private and what's public inside the house. As soon as you enter the house, you're brought into quite a dim foyer area, followed by a spiral staircase that brings visitors to the upper level of the house. In terms of the organization of the program, most of the more private programs for the client who intends to use this as a vacation home for himself is located on the lower level, whereas the public programs, for example, the kitchen, the living room, and the study are located on the upper level. So when you have guests that come to visit the house, they're immediately brought into this kind of concrete dim foyer, and they circulate in the spiral stair up to the second level. That ensures that the lower level, which is just for the client himself, can be very open, is more private, and the bedroom and the kind of personal living areas are located on the ground floor with views out to the surrounding landscape and the gardens. I think regarding the future of the office, what we're really looking forward to is bringing the subtlety of the projects and the sense of materiality to hopefully engage more of the public in public and also cultural projects.